If you're a new loan officer and your deal just died, have hope. Experienced loan officers know that you don't have a deal until it dies and you bring it back from the dead. Today we're going to talk about the 7 things that kill a deal and how to fix it and win the battle. All right, let's do this. Mayday, mayday. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Finance Agents Live. This is episode number 89, and today, in honor of May 1st, we're going to be talking about what happens when your deals get in trouble. Today we're going to go over 3 main things. We're going to talk about expect problems, right? Don't be surprised by them. We'll talk about some problems that have happened, what you should be looking for. Then we're going to touch on 7 reasons deals die. Again, it's all about expecting what's going to happen so you're not surprised by it. Just like any warrior or fighter, you want to, plan for the battle in advance so you know what to expect and know how to fix it. And then we'll give you our framework for success, our warrior framework for success that shows you the best steps and tips that we've come up with for how to predict when something's going to go wrong and find a solution in order to make things happen. If you're new to the show, subscribe. If you like it, like it. If not, don't like it. But if you do, like it. And come back next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about cannabis. Ben Morris, who was on last week, is going to be back talking about using 401k funds to fund marijuana businesses, which is a new thing that is happening a lot. Also, interestingly, how to have a 401k for your cannabis business. So, a lot of the people, usually if you're looking to start a cannabis business, you don't have money. But once you have it, you have crazy amounts of money. I mean, I hear just the craziest stories. So, on one side, you have no money, you want to get into it, 401k is an option now. On the other side, once you have the money, we have the only solution provider in the country that will actually create a 401k for a marijuana business. So either way, it'll be interesting. Come back next week and we will be talking about that. All right, so jumping into today's show, first of all, expect problems. And I'm not saying this on a negative way, right? What I'm saying is if you're expecting a problem, then you're usually already looking for solutions before it happens. That's probably the best #1 thing you could do to stop problems from happening. But, we have some sayings that we say internally. This is something I say. Here's one. Every deal dies at least once, right? Now, if it's dead and you leave it dead, it's dead. Okay, so every deal is going to die at one point. Some people believe, and I believe, you don't have a deal until it dies and then you save it. All right, so expect problems. That way you can find solutions and fix them. All right, so if you're watching this, if you've had a deal die and it was a heartbreaker, but you were able to save it, put it into the box. I'd love to hear about it. I know it's kind of a lot to type into the chat, but I'd love to hear about a deal that you saved because we've seen a lot. Right, we're saving deals every month. Heck, that's a lot of people save the deal by bringing it to us. So don't feel free to think of us as an option if your deal died somewhere else. But just as a general rule, your deal is going to die. Something's going to go wrong. And your job, the reason you exist, your role as a finance agent, is to fix those problems. That's why you get paid the big bucks. Or if you're not getting paid the big bucks, maybe you're not saving enough deals from dying, right? Because that is really where you make your money, and that's where you provide your value as a finance agent and a loan officer. I see Frank says he gives CPR to all his deals. I thought you were just trying to kiss them. I'm just kidding. I don't know. But all right, so expect problems. If you're expecting problems, you're not going to be shocked by it, right? If you're a warrior in battle, you're expecting things to go wrong. Mike Tyson has an awesome saying, everybody has a plan until they get hit, right? So at least have a plan to begin with, and then when you get hit, at least you got something to fall back on. All right, so I'm going the wrong way on this. All right, so let's talk about the 7 reasons deals die. And one of them is kind of random surprises, so we'll get into that. But 7 reasons deals die. Now, I'm going to be talking about the real estate perspective because that's what I do most of the time here. But a lot of this is true for across any type of funding. The #1 reason deals die is that they do not qualify for as much money as they want. Now, I said it in that particular way because you as a finance agent need to remember that the client is always going to blame you if you can't give them enough money, right? The client's always going to look at you as the problem. And it's easy for you to internalize that and think, I need to find better providers, somebody would give this person money. But there's some people that just don't qualify for more money, and they're going to be angry about it. So that is something that can kill a deal. The client's going to say, that's not what I need. I'm going to walk away. But there are solutions for that. All right, another one is not enough time. I cannot tell you how many times I've had somebody contact me and say, hey, it's Wednesday. I got this great thing. It's amazing. I need funds by Friday. And, right. I don't know. Getting funds by Friday is almost impossible for almost every funding scenario. There are exceptions, but there are very few and far between. Normally, if they come to you and they don't have enough time, it's either a false deadline or it's dead, and just don't waste any time on it. A very common reason that every loan officer or finance agent will have dealt with at some point is that the borrower is lying to you, right? They went somewhere else, they got turned down, they know why they don't qualify for more money. They're trying to slide one by, trying to get through without you figuring it out, and the borrower is lying to you, trying to get a deal done. That one is really difficult to deal with unless you have open communication and the people understand, not to lie to you, because you don't lie to your doctor, because if you don't tell your doctor, he's not going to be able to help you. Same thing with loan officers and finance agents. We need to know the real situation in order to be able to help somebody. Next one would be competition. This is very common in some industries. Fortunately, much less common with our real estate deals because we're funding stuff that nobody else will do. So when people say, oh, I'm going to take it somewhere else, you can feel good that that's probably not going to happen because nobody else is going to touch that thing with a 10-foot pole. But in other industries, you could lose a deal overnight to competition, and it is very frustrating. So competition is a big one. Here's one that you're going to deal with if you're stuck in a daisy chain. You've got other brokers between you and the client. There's a good chance your deal might die to broker interference or incompetence. Basically, the broker did something wrong, or the broker's arguing about their fees. They don't care about the client. They only care about their own money, and they can maybe relay information wrong intentionally or unintentionally, or just stand in the way, or they go on vacation and you don't have the client's number. Broker interference is a big one. And finally, I think this is last but not least. No, we got two more. One is random surprises, right? And this is sort of the catch-all that we have. Random surprises, things pop up. All of a sudden there's a flood in Houston right in the middle of your deal, or whatever,
Random surprises, you have two more bullet points you have to go through?
Just one more. But random surprises is the catch-all bucket for, oh my God, what the heck? Did that really just happen? I'll give you an example. We had a client who was going through funding, and there were some siblings that owned a house together, and then we find out that the father owns 1% of the house, and he's in jail and can't sign anything. Right? Talk about random, like how do you predict that? Random surprises pop up. And then finally, partner problems. You might be helping a business or a prospective borrower who has a business partner, and they may be on board, but the business partner isn't. You don't find out till later. So that's, is that 7? Yep, 7 reasons. 7 reasons deals die. So those are a lot of things that can happen, and I haven't even gotten started on all the different ways they can happen. They will happen. Every one of these things is going to happen to you, especially the random surprises one. I guarantee random surprises are going to pop up. How do you deal with it without getting frustrated? It's easy to get frustrated and want to quit. But if you get frustrated and quit, then guess what? Your deal has died for the last time, right? You don't want that. You want to bring that puppy back from the dead and fix it. How do you do that? What we have is we call it have the warrior mentality, right? You want to be like this woman. Experienced warriors know that every setback isn't the end of the battle. They focus on winning the war and not the individual battle. And you want to be a warrior, not a quitter, if you want to make money and get your deal funded. All right, so let's go through our structure for the warrior mentality, things to remember throughout the battle in order to win the war. You might lose one little battle, but you'll win the war as a loan officer because you're going to save more deals than you're going to lose by following this framework. So jumping into it, first of all, W. The W in warrior is work on winning the war instead of freaking out, right, or quitting. And that's just a mindset of, and this is kind of what we've already been talking about, expect problems, and when they happen, don't stop, keep going. Right? I've watched, if you've seen some old war movies, they are incredibly impactful and crazy. You watch these guys, there's a whole line of people with machine guns shooting at our hero, and they run right into the battle even though it looks hopeless and scary. And heck, these guys are risking their lives. They're literally running and could die, all right? So if they're able to do that, you're not going to die if a loan doesn't fund, okay? There's no reason to get dejected and quit. You want to keep working. Keep on working to find a solution. Don't focus on the problem. Focus on finding new solutions. And, the way to do that, the first way to do that, don't get stressed, get stuff done, right? Instead of getting stopped or giving up. I've seen a lot of loans where they really honestly looked hopeless, and all of a sudden, out of the ashes, we were able to pull them out. And one of the main ways to do that is to ask more questions, all right? The more you do this, the longer you do this, you're going to develop your questions, your key questions, or your pivot point questions, right? Like, hey, we hit a wall. Where's the window? These are the questions that I can use in order to find it. And a lot of those questions will be about other funding programs, or, if you find out it's not enough money because the appraisal came back low, you can ask about other real estate. You can ask if they can bring on other partners who have real estate. Maybe they have other ways to get money. I have a lot of people that come in and say, I'll give you an example. There's a loan I'm working on right now where she came in saying, I need $130,000 or this thing's done. And then the appraisal came in low and we could only approve it for $117,000. Some people would just say, all right, that's done, and walking away. When you go back and really dig into the question with a borrower, you discover, hey, they actually do have solutions. There's more money than they told you about because they wanted to get as big a loan as possible. They wanted to save their cash. I get it. But by working through and asking questions, asking about other properties that they can bring in, asking about partners, asking about other funding programs, right? Maybe you can't get enough on this real estate deal, but how's your credit if it's good? Maybe we can supplement it with personal term loans. Or maybe your wife qualifies for a personal term loan and we can bring in her credit in order to finance this transaction. There's a lot of different ways to fund a deal. We know we've seen almost I would say everything, but I find new stuff all the time, so I can't say we've seen everything because new stuff's popping up all the time. But ask key questions and you're going to find new solutions. All right? But if you just give up or stop answering the phone or you tell the client that it's done, you cancel the loan, throw the stuff in the trash can, then that deal is definitely dead. Ask questions to find new answers. And it might be asking the client questions, it might be going to the underwriter, it might be going to the funding source, say, hey, instead of telling me that you can't do this deal, what would make this a deal that you can do? Right? So if you know that that is too little money for somebody to accomplish their goal, they want to buy a building and that's not enough cash, don't be afraid to come back and say, all right, I hear your answer is this. Is there some way we can restructure the deal where you can get more money? Handing over title of the property, bringing in other properties. Or is there some other program that we can bring in, or whatever? There are often options if you ask for them. Okay, so ask questions to get answers. The next R in Warriors is to remember your deadlines, but it's not just remember your deadlines, it's remember real deadlines. People will present you with fake deadlines all the time. And frankly, you just got to forget about them. Ignore the fake deadlines where they say, I got to have this by Friday, or I'm losing my house. Now, that might be a real deadline, or there might be a fake deadline. All right? We have a borrower right now who's at risk of losing their property. They're worried about it going into foreclosure, and they're getting heavily pressed by the prior lender, who's threatening to foreclose the property and take it away from them right away. But we know the foreclosure process is a long process, right? Even in states where it's fast, at a minimum, you got a few months where you're not going to lose that property. A minimum, you got like 3 months, right? Some states it could take 3 years. Some states it takes 2 years. You lose the property. You have a whole other year where you can buy it back in a redemption period. So often the foreclosure process takes years, definitely not days or weeks. So if somebody's saying, I'm going to get foreclosed on, hey, we don't care if the foreclosure process has started. We've got the loan going. We can still get them out of it. That's not a problem. Now, on the other hand, there are real deadlines, right? I have another borrower right now where she already lost her property because of unpaid taxes. The way it works in Pennsylvania is you're going to have taxes that'll pile up and somebody can come in and buy those taxes. And if you don't pay them in time, the title of the property is handed over to the person that bought it. Then you have a year, or I think it's a year, where you can still pay it off and get it back. And this person's deadline is today. I found out about this yesterday. right? So that is a real deadline. She can pay $10,000 and extend it for another week, but I got to know that I have to be able to fund that thing within 1 week, which is very difficult. A lot of things have to happen. That's a real deadline. So if you have a real deadline, you want to discover it early and communicate it to everyone very clearly in order to make sure you can work towards getting that done. Amazingly, all the pressure in the world is on this client. I don't even have a mortgage payoff statement yet. So you think that, that even if it's a real deadline, there's a reason that people are losing the property to begin with, because they're not good about following up in the deadline. So remember the real deadlines, forget about the fake ones. Next, respect your fellow warriors. One super important thing that all good soldiers will talk about is that when they get out on the field, they're not fighting for the president, they're not fighting for the deal of the day, they're fighting for the soldier next to them. And it's easy when you're getting stressed out, when you're in a deal, everybody's yelling at you, start getting angry at the people around you. But what happens is you're abusing the people that you're fighting the war with, all right? And they may stop answering the phone. You can't get anything done if they won't want to talk to you because you yelled at them the last time. They are probably relaying information to you that is outside of their control. Somebody else told them something, like they're supposed to have an answer on Tuesday. They got no answer. Now it's pushed back by another week. That is super frustrating. It's normal to get frustrated and yell at that person, but it's probably outside of their control, and you're just making their day bad, and maybe they're going to stop answering the phone. You're killing your own deal by ruining the other people you work with. So respect your fellow warriors. Always be respectful of their time. Be nice, and they are going to fight with you instead of against you. All right, next, ignore the sounds of battle, right? Kind of like I was just talking about. There is a point I found in every deal where everybody starts yelling, the client starts complaining, I'm going to walk if I don't get X by Y. When the client complains, you have no idea on my side. I will have a client calling me, I'll have the finance agent that brought the deal in calling me, I'll have the member office calling me, and maybe somebody's boss. I get 4 or 5 people calling me on something, and guess what? I could talk to all of them all day long and it doesn't get the deal funded. The client wants their deal funded. Whether or not I'm talking to all these people doesn't get the deal funded. It just doesn't. So at some point, you have to, like I was talking about the last person, you have to ignore phone calls in order to get stuff done. I could literally spend all day on the phone talking to people and fund nothing, right? Nobody wants that. So sometimes you have to ignore the noise around you, right? When you're in battle, you have to know your goal and work towards it, and you got to work with the people around you, but at some point you just got to stop and move forward, and that's what you have to do sometimes. Organize, the next one, the O, is organize your comms efficiently, right? One of the things that comes from all these people coming to you for answers when they have nowhere else to go is if they're not getting the answer they want in the time they want, they start ratcheting up their communication. They start communicating more and more. And let me talk to your boss, or let me talk to the next guy. And that becomes a communication disaster. Like I said, you can spend all your time communicating and getting nothing done. So what you want to do is organize your communication, find a way to bulk communicate, BCC people on an email so you don't have to send 6 emails, clearly communicate timelines. One of the things that new warriors, if you will, new loan officers and new finance agents often do is that they misrepresent the time that it takes to get something done. And you're going to learn over time to be more cautious about saying we can fund something in 3 days because it's really difficult to do. It's possible, but it's really difficult. So the more you communicate that something's going to get done fast, everybody's going to be mad, they're going to be yelling at you. By communicating efficiently and clearly in advance and setting timelines in your communications, you're going to decrease the pressure. Even though people will be upset, it's better to tell them directly from the beginning than wait till the end. So again, there's a lot of different ways that we have communicate. We have an agent portal set up. We have our CRM. We can send messages that go out to everybody at the same time. And that's because otherwise you're calling everybody or people aren't getting called and they're complaining. And that way people are getting frequent updates. So use the system to get your communications out, but don't let it run you. You run the system, don't let the system run you. And then last but not least, you're going to have deals that die completely. The client says, cancel the loan, I'm walking away. There's nothing you can do, and it's done. But often you find that you can revive the dead. I like to reach out to clients sometimes 2-3 months later, say, hey, did you ever get funding on that deal? And you will be, if you haven't done this before, you'll be surprised at how often somebody comes back and says, yeah, I just never got it. And often there's still an opportunity there. You say, hey, well, before you weren't open to kind of rediscussing how we're going to do this, but now there's been some time and you've kind of seen that there aren't a lot of other options out there. Maybe now you're going to be open to restructuring or figuring out a new way to get this deal done. We have revived a lot of the debt in order to become successful fundings later. I know other companies that routinely will have a 6-month cycle where something will fall through and people will come back. It's very normal. You put out an offer, somebody doesn't like the offer, like these rates are crazy, they go spend 2 months, and you reach back out to them, you bring them back in, otherwise maybe they just give up, right? Some people won't do a deal because they think it's too expensive, because you haven't clearly communicated that the opportunity for doing it is more than the cost, and by going back to them over the time, sometimes they'll be willing to listen when they weren't before. So that is our warrior mentality. Number one, don't forget, the battle is not done until it's done, and sometimes it comes back later. Just to recap, if you feel your deal is dying or it's dead, remember, work on winning the war, keep working forward, don't give up, ask questions in order to get new answers, find new solutions, new opportunities. Remember real deadlines, because real deadlines will come, and if you're not ready for them, you lost. Don't get moved around by fake deadlines. Respect your fellow warriors, fight with the people that are around you in a good way. Ignore the sounds of battle, keep moving forward, and don't let everybody distract you. Organize your comms efficiently so people don't drown you with communications and they're getting the information they need. And don't forget to revive the dead, because they will come back, and not like the living dead, they'll come back and be happy customers, right? You get paid and you make a lot of money. So that is it for the show today. Thanks everybody for coming on. Remember, come back next week for getting 401k funding for your cannabis. I don't know if people call it that, but that's what I'm going to call it now. That's show 90. That means we're just
Cannabis?
10 show. Cannabis, that's what I'm calling it. Cannabis business. It could be, you know, there's so many different kinds of cannabis businesses. You'd be amazed. There's dispensaries, there's growers, there's people making equipment, there's delivery, there's, you name it. Yeah. Darren, you know all about this. You smoke marijuana all the time.
Yeah, I do.
Every day.
But it's crazy, and you have like the growers, but they make the clones, so they're not actually like the people growing the final product, and then you have the people growing the final product, then you have the people that are taking that particular flower and then creating the different the CBD oil, which surprisingly I just got a mailer from Bed Bath & Beyond, who's now carrying CBD oil.
Awesome, yeah. But the CBD oil doesn't have any THC in it.
It does not, but it was
simply a cannabis
labeled
product.
as brand new, and it's like, oh,
awesome.
wow.
That's right.
It is now not just like you go to dispensary. You're starting to see these products in California coming out to big box locations. Right. Yeah, they're coming out everywhere. Another one that popped up recently is we had a company come to us, was a testing company. They're testing marijuana for purity and to make sure there aren't pesticides and stuff in there. So stuff you'd never imagine. There's going to be new things popping up all the time. There's, so anyway, lots of cannabis business. If you interact with it, they're always looking for money if they're new, or sometimes if they've been around for a little while. A 401k is a great way for them to, save money. You can save a lot of money by having a 401k, putting aside money pre-tax. So anyway, come back next week. Ben Morris is always interesting to listen to, knows a lot about this stuff, and it's very interesting. So thanks everybody for coming on. Look forward to doing a lot more deals together.